Okay, so we'll first take the roll. Commissioner Shen,
Present.
um, excuse me, sorry, Commissioner Taylor,
Present.
Commissioner Ross,
Present.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Present.
Okay, we're all here. Any changes to the agenda?
Good evening. I would ask that we move number 5 to the February agenda. It's not time critical,
Okay.
and I think we're good with that.
Oh, okay.
That sounds good.
Elise would like to be here for that.
Yeah, that's great. That actually was my request, and I'm psyched that we'll wait for her to be here. And no one here from the public. So we have our approval of minutes from last time. We want to have a quick look at the minutes from last time.
I move that we approve the minutes from the November meeting.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have some staff comments for this month.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's been a rather busy and productive beginning of the year. I'm happy to report today that we completed 2 art installations earlier this month. So the first installation is you can see images from the installation of Welcome Bench by Portland-based artist Pete Beeman, commissioned for the new fire station number 3, installed earlier this week. So despite the drizzle and cold weather, the installation was completed in just half a day as opposed to planned 3 days. This kinetic bench will remain created for protection from ongoing construction, which is currently scheduled to complete in the end of March. And this is the installed artwork. Another exciting news comes from Avenidas. This installation was completed earlier this week. This installation was created by artist Martin Webb. The artwork was commissioned as part of the Percent for Art in Private Development requirement for the Senior Center expansion project. The artwork created by Martin Webb was from reclaimed pine wood, adopted from the original building. It's installed in the new atrium lobby. It visually represents the ethos of Avenidas as being about community connection and growth. In looking for metaphors to represent this, the artist gravitated towards 2 ideas: a forest-like groupings of trees looking upwards to a canopy, and the more abstract image of clusters of circles suggesting social groups with a combination of movement and cohesion. The building is currently expected to reopen later this spring. We will inform the commissioners about the date for a grand opening event, as we think it would be really nice to celebrate the artwork as part of that event. And we just heard from Martin today. He let us know that he titled the artwork as 148 possibilities. 148 possibilities. So this is the finished artwork. Okay, that's it for staff comments today.
Thank you. It's fun to see the art go in before construction is finished in these cases. It's
Well, they're just finishing up. Really, the construction is at its last stages. So, as practice, we always coincide construction schedule
Right at
with
the
the
end.
art installation in a way that nobody gets in each other's way. So it worked out really well for us.
That's great.
Yeah, the piece will be protected while the guy's working around.
awesome. Okay, our next order of business is the election of officers. So I'm the current chair and have been chair for the past couple of years. I'm actually not going to continue as chair. And as chair, what you do is participate in, with the vice chair, a monthly call. So to set the agenda for the items that are going to be discussed about 10 days before, the Monday of the week prior to having the meeting, there's a call that's scheduled with staff to review the items on the agenda. And that typically takes half an hour, if not more than half an hour. Sometimes it's just 15 minutes. Depends on how comprehensive the agenda is. And you can suggest items for the agenda, and if you have questions, if you want to make recommendations for providing a certain level of detail about things that are going to come up as part of the discussion that you anticipate other commissioners might be interested in, that's something that you would do as part of that call. But it's not overly burdensome. Occasionally, there's a speaking thing, a dedication. I think I've done, I don't know, a couple of those. And it's fun. And then you're familiar with just the proceedings of running the meetings. So that's basically it. So I'd like to open the floor to nominations. And I'm going to start. I'll nominate Ben. And we can...
Excuse me, for which position? You have to
Oh, for chair.
specify.
And anyone else, you can nominate yourself, you can nominate someone else. And when we finish, we have all the different nominations. People have to accept the nomination.
And you do chair and then vice chair.
Yeah, we'll do chair first, and then we'll come back and do vice chair.
Okay.
You want to go ahead?
Just want to let you know that I prepared those single ballots, one for the position of chair and the one for vice chair, so you can fill them out and pass them to me for counting the tallies.
Any other nominations for chair? Vice Chair Miyagi, do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination. Thank you.
Okay. Great. So,
So you actually have to make a motion to close the nominations.
all right. So then, if there are no other nominees, then we are going to close. I mean, I move to close the nomination for chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Very good. So let's see here. So now we're going to take our single ballot here.
Vote.
Now you vote and pass your ballots to me so we can count your votes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, just give me a minute.
Gripping Jeopardy music should be playing right now.
Exactly, where's our background?
And then I have 6 votes for Commissioner Ben Miyagi. Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right. And now we open this is the same process for the vice chair. Anything you'd add, Ben, in terms of
No,
responsibilities?
I think that's good.
Okay. So the floor is open for nominations.
I nominate Lauren for vice chair.
Thank you, I accept.
Any other nominations? Okay. I move to close the floor for nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's do some voting here.
Totalitarian state, right? One name on the ballot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Six votes for Commissioner Gordon. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Very exciting. So the next order of business is the mobile app.
it's me.
I hadn't seen our logo. That looks cool.
Okay. Just be a little patient. It's coming up. Okay, here we are. So just to remind the commissioners the background story behind this item, as you recall, identifying and testing a mobile app to expand the experience for the public art collection was one of the priorities in our latest retreat. So our fabulous summer intern research compared and presented 7 apps. As a result of that conversation, it was identified that Story would be the one platform we would proceed with a trial to see how the functionality works really for our collection needs, how many people interact with it, and make a decision whether we want to proceed and adopt this platform for our collection. So in fact, we just concluded our 3-month trial period, and I'll give you statistics for those in a few moments. So just a few words about Story. In case some of you have not had an opportunity to play with the app, I'll just give you a quick overview of its functionality. So Story, it's a mobile experience platform. The platform offers a full range of digital services available to organizations on an annual subscription basis. Story maintains mobile apps both for iOS and Android phones. The apps are available for free. They're ad-free as well on their respective app stores. The platform allows an organization to tell stories through text, images, audio, video content. It can take visitors behind the scenes or show them what went into the making of a piece, or just allow the artist to directly communicate to their audience. The content management system is super easy to use. There is no code required. All changes are instantly updated on the mobile apps. The app allows to create an unlimited number of stories and arrange them into different categories within the same organization, and I'll walk you through that demonstration in a few moments. Story's interactive app map shows visitors that what venues and it shows the visitors what venues and stories are nearby on their phones, and then provides turn-by-turn directions to those venues. Live analytics provide real-time reports about visitor interactions. It shows what content was reviewed, how much time visitors spent interacting with that content, that sort of thing. And finally, the social engagement that the app offers. The Story app includes social engagement features, such as options to solicit feedback directly from the visitors as they explore the venue. So the app can collect either written or short audio clip responses, and I can see lots of different applications to that feature. For example, we can gather general feedback about installations, or get reports on any vandalism, just maintenance issues, or just lead various quests and games, for example. So when this is sort of like a visual walkthrough from the user experience. When you open the app on your phone, it will locate you on the map and show you all the organizations in your area. So for example, you see Public Art Program is one of the listed organizations. You can click touch that organization, and you'll see more detailed information about the organization, including our mission statement, contact information, social media handles, etc. And it will also provide you all the published stories. So for the purpose of this trial, we identified 2 locations. So one was for the series of brilliant sculptures in front of the Art Center and Rinconado Library. And the second location, the second artwork was Cloud Forest at Mitchell Park Library. So again, you can click on the story, say Brilliance in this case, and it gives you the map, the exact location of that venue, that artwork. It gives you general information about the artist, additional images. We loaded a link to the full text for each sculpture, artist websites, and the video, how to interact with the sculptures. And just a quick example for Cloud Forest, again, it's location, additional images, information about the artwork, the artist, and a couple of videos. This is how the back end of the platform looks. So this is really where the magic happens. You can see that the admin dashboard, so it allows the administrator to view any recent activities or all the published stories, manage content, view detailed reports of the user activity, and get in touch with the support team. So it's all on the left side dashboard. So in order to edit or add my content, I can go into an individual story and just edit any tab, add any new tab, and upload video, audio files, images. I can reorganize how the tabs look on the front end of it, and then on the right side you can see that immediately these changes will be updated and they'll go live for the users. That takes me to the feedback on our trial. So we negotiated a 3-month-long free trial period with the app, and created a couple of stories for Brilliance and Rinconado. Promoted the app trial on social media, on-site signage, and the word of mouth, and we really appreciate our colleagues both at Rinconado Mitchell Park Libraries and the Art Center for their support in reaching out to those audiences. So you can see from this graph that between October 23rd and January 15th, we had 96 engagements with those 2 artworks. Over 40 people scanned the QR code on site using the on-site signage that we had in place. The rest of them access the media, the content either via the app, a story app on their phone, or through using URL link. So if you go into a more detailed report for Brilliance, you can see the same. 38 views in those 3 months, 27 scans. The average time of engagement is almost 3 minutes. So what we also, it's worth mentioning that what we observed, there are more engagements with Brilliance, and we think it was just due to how we placed, there were just like more on-site signs. We took advantage of, 6 sculptures, and then information was also distributed both at the art center and the library. While at Mitchell Park, we didn't have an opportunity to place one of those corrugated boards. However, the information was appearing on the digital board every now and then, and also the front desk staff at the library had information available to us. But it was really encouraging to see that, even though, it was a holiday season, so you can see, like, some days was quiet and people didn't engage, but there's definite spikes, of the usability. It was, it's 96 people who actively engaged with those artworks and spent time, either going to the artist's website or, just looking into the videos. So it was really encouraging to see. So I'll walk you through, pricing for Story. So it's, like I mentioned before, it's a subscription-based application. There are 3 different options that we can go for. So we can subscribe to the platform on a monthly basis, which comes up to $140 per month. Or we can get a slightly discounted rate, and if we subscribe on an annual basis, so it's $1,495. And they offered a slight discount on top of that if we sign up for up to 3 years right now. So yeah, we had a really positive experience with the customer service, even though the company is located in New Zealand. The response rate was always really good. There was always somebody available to assist with our questions, or, well, there were no technical complications whatsoever, issues. The app worked really well. We had positive reviews. I know we collected a couple of positive reviews from the commissioners during this trial. So pretty optimistic about using this tool in the future.
Questions?
How many different communities, do you know how many different communities use this app?
Quite a lot of arts and cultural organizations across the globe use the app. For example, I know that the LAX public art program recently joined, subscribed to their services. I believe it's Seattle, which, has quite a significant collection. They use Story. So a lot of organizations across the globe really just subscribe to their services.
So there's a good chance that if you travel that you'll be able to use this.
Yeah.
Any place you travel
And what I should mention, the flexibility for the app. So you really don't need to download the app. If you have any QR scanner on your phone, it will work. So you can either download the app, or you can use the QR code, or you can just go to the web browser and just look up the information that way.
And then my other question is, if we do this and we add more to it, is that going to take another FTE or a half person, or and keep it maintained? I think is the main thing.
So the maintenance behind it is, it didn't take us a long time to update that information. We've got descriptions and images and from most of it already. It would be interesting to pursue to get in touch with a lot of artists, living artists, and perhaps interview them, or just record video clips, audio clips with just them talking about the artwork in the collection. So there's definitely some work. You can see how it could be potentially a really fun project for an intern. But we do have a lot of material ready that could be, utilized,
moving from one
uploaded.
place to the
Yes.
other.
And literally, it takes seconds to, copy and paste and, upload information into that app. Just moments.
All right, thank you.
Is there an interface for the artist to just interact with their own? So if you wanted to send a message to Bruce, for example, to do our what's it called? Arpeggio. Can he just do it himself? So it's self-serve and you just approve it?
He could. So, for example, we got in touch with Roger Stoller, who created the piece for Mitchell Park. And, we sent him a quick write-up and just, for his approval. And, just he added a few lines there. So the artists could do it themselves. Or
So there's a guest login, or like you can.
So
send
there's
them-
an admin login, but I mean, if needed, we can add as many administrators as possible, to that. There's no limitation to that. And it goes the same for the amount of, number of stories. We can have as many stories as we want. It's unlimited. And we can organize them by different categories. So, for example, if we want to have just a special category for, permanently sited pieces versus temporary installations, and have two separate sort of nice packages, we can do that. We can also create, stories for our special projects, like I can see for code art, for example, and they will be, very they would be differentiated, it'd be easy to identify, okay, this is code art related projects versus this is the permanent collection.
So more about the company. So I think Elise mentioned that they were recently acquired by a larger company. So do we have a sense of how solvent they are financially?
Yes. So Story has been on the market for, I want to say, at least 6 to 7 years. And they're in the process of being acquired by My Tour, which is a larger and more established, similar tour app. So it's happening right now. And what's good about that is, there'll be more staff, there'll be, I think, issues behind sort of, functionalities and just technical support. I believe it's going to be, just going more smoothly. It might also affect the subscription, the costs, because My Tour is slightly more expensive than Story. So right now we're still sort of on the Story price list, but it's due to happen in the near future.
So when you say slightly more, is it $5,000? Is it?
I think it's right now it's a matter of $500 difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see this one. So we looked at this several years ago. Elise talked to these guys, and we've looked at a lot of these different things. And I think for me, this is one of the things when I first joined the commission I was most excited about. A lot of the apps are things that you're never going to use. And if you haven't done it, it works really easily. If you just point your phone and turn on the camera, and it'll automatically read it'll pop the QR code and pop the page, and it's very fast, and it's a great experience. So I'm super supportive, and to me the pricing seems reasonable, and the idea of just thinking through the placements is great. I echo what Ben mentioned in terms of just being sensitive to the amount of time it takes to do it. And the one question I have for you is, are we going to maintain? We're going to maintain the site, we still have our kind of funky site with the things that move up and down,
Yeah, well, the public art page is, lives on the City of Palo Alto website. So we're one of the many programs that, city runs. So of course.
Are we going to duplicate the content?
Well, I think with story, we'll be able to really expand that content and, just provide more images, possibly, video, audio files for, all the artworks, all the stories that we load. So,
No, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
No, I recognize you can do more here.
Right.
But let's say that we get the Greg Guta's piece goes in.
Yeah.
So someone's going to enter once, enter twice. So that,
yeah.
And it's not that, we're not worried about it.
It's not very time consuming,
Okay.
and
So
yes,
no
we
new
will
content.
continue to maintain the
Okay.
city collection page on the city website.
Great.
And once they get acquired, will the name change? Or-
No,
Okay,
no,
they'll
the
keep their
brand
name.
name
Okay.
still
All
stay
right.
the same.
Just one quick question, maybe this is naive, but putting all those codes on all the artwork, right, figuring out how to do the signage for that, was that pretty simple, or?
Yeah, so we don't create the QR code. We populate the generation, and once I click save, the program generates a QR code, which I can download right then. And the way we're thinking of applying those QR codes is possibly printing them on vinyl, and just adding them to the existing aluminum signage that we have. And it will read really nicely, yes.
Okay, I wonder, 'cause it works really well.
As a staff member, I have to say, I noticed this at in an airport. It must have been, maybe it was Seattle, maybe I traveled a lot recently, but, and I got really excited, like, oh, we're doing something that, this large airport's doing. I know what to do. I don't have to think about it. And I was much more entertained. So I think that this is, I think this is going to be a great addition. And with the ability to print those QR codes, there's probably other applications for it, whether it's in the library to generate excitement. You can even have an exhibit, right, of the public art without having to necessarily go to the site because you have those codes. So
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think there's some really great collaborative ideas, too.
I was just gonna say, this is really exciting. I just loaded the app on my phone, so, and it looks like it's pretty user-friendly. But I would encourage just the staff with any additional time to monitor that QR code. I'm just thinking on exterior artwork, a vinyl sticker can be taken, can be just, we would want to be able to have it completely able to be accessed and used, and also to have an aesthetically pleasing
Yeah.
signage, so it doesn't look totally DIY. So, assuming it goes in, and better is good, but best is great. So, we look at it, if it does work, implementing that QR code in a more permanent, attractive signage for the work.
Yes, definitely. Very thoughtful. Can definitely experiment with that, and perhaps just play with different types of adhesives, just to see what, holds up and the elements the best. And yeah, we can definitely consider incorporating QR codes into our permanent signage. Sort of the plus, the strong point behind using a temporary adhesive that can be replaced, it's cheap, we do condition reports and just, check on the condition of our collection on an ongoing basis. So I think it would be pretty easy to spot and replace that, like, for example, we replace signage, for our rotating collection on ongoing basis as well. And it's inexpensive and not time consuming. I wonder, I would be more hesitant etching or, including those QR codes into the permanent signage. Yes, so, but we'll definitely experiment. We can report back, see how they age.
I think vinyl will be okay. I mean, have you seen them?
QR code?
The implementation of Brilliance, or the one at the
No, not
yeah,
outside.
you should go check it out. It looks pretty good. I move to approve.
I'm questioning,
Oh,
can
sorry.
we do I agree with you, can we do the 3-year instead of just the 1-year?
For an additional 5%? Sure. I mean, we lock in the pricing, is that what's your objective? Lauren?
The reason to do it, yeah, to lock in the pricing, but also because you said it's being acquired, so then at least we do have 3 years and we're committed to it. I don't
Okay.
know. What do you think?
Do we?
Anyone?
Presumably, we don't pay all upfront, right? We're just committing to do it for 3 years. Yeah,
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
I think that's a good idea. So you
Okay,
guys
thank
make the
you.
call, but I'm supporting.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, temporary public art at King Plaza.
Excuse me.
Where actually, why don't you take over?
No.
Kick him back. There you go, Ben.
Yeah, really, you can just turn off your thing.
Super exciting.
Okay.
It's cool because when we first looked at it 3 years ago, the phones didn't have the native QR code reader in the camera. So it was like some special funky app, and like I think are much more prevalent now, so it's,
It's simple to do.
Okay. All right, so next item, approval of temporary public art installations for King Plaza. I'm really excited to report on this item. We already had done some extensive work in order to bring this item for you today. Okay, so just to walk you briefly through the objectives of the temporary program. So for this selection process, we looked in, the goal is to program temporary public art installations for King Plaza for, to go in years 2019, 20, and 21. So we, located in front of City Hall, King Plaza is a sustainable venue for public discourse through the arts. So with every new, temporary installation that we bring to King Plaza, the intention is to always produce dynamic exhibitions that will reflect a very diverse range of media styles and perspectives. In other words, we don't want to bore you with the same stuff over and over again. And of course, we were looking at the range of installations which could be installed for any time between 3 and up to 12 months. So to walk you through the selection process, we worked with our pre-qualified artist pool of over 300 applicants to identify a roster of artists appropriate for this particular opportunity. We then reached out to all the artists on that roster to confirm their interest and availability to work with us in the next 2 years. While some of the artists we'll be reviewing today have existing work available for loan, some of them offered to create new site-specific installations for King Plaza. The panelists for this selection panel, it was Elise DeMarzo, Public Art Program Director, Ian Klaus, Public Art Commissioner, and Valerie Tam, Public Works Engineer, who we've been working very closely on a number of previous installations for King Plaza. So the panelists reviewed the proposed artists, 7 artists, and ranked them highest to lowest. So today I'll be today we'll be reviewing. I'll be providing to you 5 top ranked artists, the first 5. Okay, so the selection criteria that was implemented in that selection process was artistic excellence, of the examples with previous body of work and the proposed concepts or artworks for our site. Also, the commissioners, the selection panels looked into how site-specific and appropriate the proposed concept or existing project would be to the site itself, Palo Alto and its diverse communities. And also the third criteria was proposed artwork is dynamic and it encourages civic engagement. So I'm going to quickly walk you through the 5 artists. I'm going to show a couple of examples of their previous body of work so you kind of understand their palette and provide the concept for the site. So this is the ranking where the panelists landed. Freeland Buck, Adam Marcus, Paz de la Galzada, Randy Kolaski, and a collective called Electric Coffin. So the highest ranked artist collective, Freeland Buck, it's 2 individuals, David Freeman and Brennan Buck. So it's an artistic collaboration architecture practice by David Freeland and Brennan Buck with nearly 10 years of experience engaging and challenging the public. Their work includes large-scale interior installations, outdoor pavilions, and ground-up buildings that are both vibrant and meaningful. At the core of their work is the ability to create incredibly complex and intricate patterns and geometries and translate those into canopy and pavilion-like permanent and temporary structures. What's characteristic to all of the installations is that they are always reveal an area of fractured partial views rather than a single and static perspective. And I'll show you examples of what I mean. So this is installation that they created in 2012. It's called Assembly Pavilion. So it was designed, fabricated, and erected with students at the Yale School of Architecture. This pavilion was the information center for the New Haven's Summer International Festival of Arts and Ideas. So you can see from this image that the structure appears rather solid and massive from this angle, but it looks almost transparent and porous from a different viewpoint. So the structure was a single triangulated pattern extruded to a point near the festival stage. So every aluminum panel engaged in this installation was aligned to that single point in space. Another previous example of their work is a more recent installation called Parallax Gap. It was commissioned for the Smithsonian, and it was a reinterpretation of the Renaissance tradition of trompe-l'oeil in illusion, rendered through the 21st century technology and visual culture. The 9 ceilings in this installation are each drawn in perspective from several eccentric viewpoints, creating a series of distinct vantage points to be encountered as one moves through the gallery and zones between where the drawings collide and cohere. The installation serves as a field guide to American architecture in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, including American versions of several architectural styles, including Victorian Gothic, Greek Revival, Beaux Art, Romanesque, Neoclassical, Art Deco, and Second Empire architectural styles. Another example of their work, it's an early project, Slipstream. So building an egg crate structure is one of the first techniques that architectural students learn in school. So interlocking sheets in 2 directions may form an object of any shape and size. So inspired by Libby's Wood's drawings, Brennan Buck created installation that was an attempt to imbue the same type of bidirectional interlocking structure with more dynamism, flow, and variation. So while the custom cut sheets are still organized in two sets of members, the redundant connections triangulate the structure, making it more rigid than your average egg crate. Another previous example of their work, it's an indoors installation created in 2008, Technicolor Bloom. It was a temporary installation with patterns reinforcing a certain geometry one moment and clouding it the next. So figures emerge separately and simultaneously fuse together. The installation proposes a variation of architectural figure that never produces specific meaning, but evokes only loose variable associations remaining in the realm of effect. So we're really inspired by the body of work that we saw in their application, and we reached out to the team asking them if they would be interested to create a site-specific project for King Plaza. So they were really excited about working with us, and while they were not able to, provide like a visual concept at that point, they ensured us that they would create a pattern pavilion or canopy type of structure consistent with the aesthetics of the assembly pavilion, the absolutely porous aluminum building we saw in other examples that I just showed you. We really don't know at this point what it would look like, but this piece with visually complex and engaging, computationally patterned, vibrantly colored, aligned three-dimensionally with specific viewpoints, and provide quite dynamic and dramatic difference in appearance from different viewpoints. So this is team number one. The next artist that I'm going to present to you today, he's a local guy, Adam Marcus. He's an Oakland-based artist, architect, and educator. Adam directs variable projects, an independent art and design studio. He's also a partner in Futures North. It's a Minneapolis-based public art collaborative dedicated to exploring the aesthetics of data. And he also teaches at California College of the Arts. So his work explores how new technologies can interface with long-standing traditions of craft, materiality, ornament, and pattern to create dynamic spatial constructions that engage diverse publics in new ways. Central to Adam's practice is his interest in visual communicating information in a contextual and dynamic sculptural way. His work employs innovative approaches to digital design and fabrication to enhance art's capacity to engage the public in new and surprising ways. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of his previous work and walk you through his concept.
Can I just ask you one quick question?
Sure.
So there was an artist that was gonna do some work with, like the tape. Is she still on board? Because it's just making me think about some of these pieces. I'm just curious. Before.
Right. So, we're still. We realized it would be quite challenging for us to realize the project with Megan Geckler that we envisioned. So we're still hoping to work with Megan in the future, but we are identifying a new site to collaborate with her.
So as of right now, she's on hold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so back to Adam Marcus. So this project that you see on the displays, Centennial Chromograph, so it was a life-size representation of the history of the University of Minnesota School of Architecture. So this project used computational design tools to generate formal and spatial constructions within large quantities of data. So in this case, it represented 100-year history of the university architectural school. The installation consists of 100 robotically routed plywood ribs joined together with over 8,000 colored pencils. So the curvature of the ribs expresses major historical eras and periods of the school. For example, the 10 years of its leadership, the buildings it has occupied, the colleges it has belonged to, while the color of the pencils reflects the changing composition of the school's degree programs over the past century. So for example, the tenure of Ralph Repson as head of School of Architecture is evident in the large 30-year curve sort of in the center of that installation. Glimmer was a super low budget, very short-term temporary installation which was commissioned for the 2016 Market Street Prototype and Festival. So it was a dynamic installation that invited passerbys to enter, touch, and interact with a plush thicket of colorful suspended filaments. The structure's colorful softness provided a welcome diversion from the everyday pedestrian experience along Market Street. This project phase change. So Marcus's projects often employ environmental data sets in their design and materialization to promote broader ecological awareness among public. So phase change created in Minneapolis in 2016 represented the effects of climate change through an engaging and dynamic spatial construction of melting ice. So the ephemeral installation consisted of 12,000 pounds of ice harvested from a local lake in Minneapolis. This sculptural ice forms faced a lattice of infrared lamps that are programmed to fluctuate based on the data derived from climate change research. So the heat produced by the lights corresponded to historical and projected climate change data and melts the sculpture according to the 3 different climate change scenarios. You can see that one is the future scenario, it's the more aggressive, sort of hotter climate, right? Present scenario and the historic scenario. So the visitors to the installation are invited to observe the phase change of melting ice to water and consider what our collective future holds. And so this sort of data-driven example brings me to the concept that I want to introduce to you. Okay, so Adam came up with a concept for arbor, and I need to add here that, you know, these concepts that we're looking at, they're very sort of at initial phases, right? They're just like back of the napkin type of sketches. So we would go into a more detailed refinement of each design and concept with each individual artist here. So arbor is a data representation of the urban forest of Palo Alto. The artwork consists of 150 laser-cut powder-coated metal ribs arranged radially within the circular planter in King Plaza. Arbor looks to historical examples of optical devices that operate radially, such as the zoetrope or the cyclorama, both of which are radially use radial geometry to create dynamic spatial conditions. The artwork uses the database of over 45,000 public trees in the city's open data portal as the basis for a collective 3-dimensional map of one aspect of our city's ecology. The artwork performs as a compass-like map with each rib corresponding to a different pie slice of territory radiating outwards from the City Hall Plaza, pointing how the city itself relates to the trees across Palo Alto. So the trees are represented by bumps on the outer edge of each rib. So the zones with the more trees result in a rib with more relief. The inside edge has negative voids that correspond to the trees in the opposite direction. The ribs are arranged in a circular form, gradually changing in height and profile to create a dynamic form that is different from each other. So individually, each rib represents the density of trees in its corresponding zone of the city, and collectively the ribs coalesce into a singular yet dynamic form that becomes a spatial relief map of the city's shared network of trees. So this is Adam Marcus's initial concept. So moving on to the next artist, I just have 3 more, so I'll be very brief. So Paz de la Garza, she is a San Francisco-based artist that she creates large site-specific drawings and temporary installations in playful dialogue with distinct elements in urban space. Through elegant and lyrical forms, her work proposes a dynamic relationship to arise between the artwork, the viewer, and the space in which it exhibited. So she's mostly known by her ongoing project, the Nomadic Labyrinth. Nomadic Labyrinth is an installation, private and public interactive-based project that consists of a large-scale labyrinth-like sculpture of precisely cut carpet. It's an ongoing project with a series of installations that not only explore the integration of drawing in architecture, but also serve as a walkable path for the public to explore as an urban meditation. The carpet pathways is represented as an installation on the floor of a street, gallery, or any other alternative space. The public and community members are invited to explore, walk, and meditate in the labyrinth and experience art as a transformative tool. Another example of her previous work, Portal. So this project invites visitors to explore ideas of passage and transformation through a site-specific installation. It was a temporary, I believe, 3-month-long installation at University of San Francisco, one of the buildings on campus. The installation features 2 different carpet tile patterns. One from a basilica in north of Italy, where that portal is originally from, and the other pattern comes from the ceiling of Mission Dolores Basilica, painted by the native Ohlone tribe. And when we reached, we've been intrigued by her work for a while, and it's interesting. We reached out to Paz, and she let us know that she's been working with a carpet, upcycled carpet, right? But she said she's been playing with this idea of creating a site-specific installation utilizing recycled astroturf, and coincidentally, we learned at the same time that, the city is going to have quite a surplus of astroturf on its hands, later this summer, because Cobberly Soccer Fields is going to replace its existing astroturf with new material. So, we've got, tons of free material to use. And so we let Paz know that, and she got very excited. So, so this is her concept of a labyrinth-like installation for King Plaza. So this would be a more temporary installation, compared to the previous projects that I showed you earlier. Right now, we're working through different attachment methods that would be, safe for the pedestrians and for the plaza, pavement itself. But so this is where we are with this particular artist. Bless you. Just a couple more. Randy Kolaski is another local artist. He lives between Oakland and Los Angeles. So just a quick statement. As a public artist, I'm enamored with the function of architecture in public spaces. Public artworks are a form of meditative disruption in the landscape, an opportunity to break people out of their routine and focus on something that is optical and contemplative. So Randy works across different medium and disciplines. So this example, that was his temporary commission for San Francisco. It was a temporary 1-year-long design that he created on this temporary construction fence. So the pattern is based on drafting templates used in mechanical drawings. By using the template in an unorthodox approach, the template becomes a pattern machine created, creating depth and optical patterns. Another example of his work, very different, sculptural piece called Central Crossing. So this is one of the 2 large-scale redwood sculptures commissioned for a new housing development in Livermore. The sculpture is made by cutting the timbers into dynamic angles and then embedding steel reinforcing into joints. And then another very different sample of his work, more recent commission now. So this piece is made from an engineered ceramic that looks solid, except it looks solid at one angle and then completely transparent at a different point of view. So you can see through the piece. So we're really intrigued by that particular material, and we approached Randy to ask him if he would be interested in considering the concept for us. We didn't know which direction he'd go, and likewise, he keeps experimenting and working with this particular material, and this is his very sort of basic sketch for King Plaza. So the piece Randy Koloski is proposing for King Plaza is based on a continuing lineage of work made with engineered ceramic blocks. So the ceramic blocks, so the sculpture made of an incredibly strong high fire ceramic called mullet. The blocks are joined together with cement as a monolithic form in the lineage of reductive minimalist sculpture. So engineered ceramic blocks have an unusual optical property due to their extruded grid structure. This grid creates an effect where the blocks appear solid at one angle and completely transparent at another. The viewer could see through the piece to see the area behind it. As the pedestrian walks in front of the piece at a distance, he or she will see a wall that seems transparent. As they get closer, the transparency narrows, and then when they turn the corner, the sculpture will appear to be made of solid grid. So this installation offers an opportunity for a viewer to contemplate the notion of transparent government, while sometimes finding transparency requires a bit of further investigation. And finally, Electric Coffin is a Seattle-based multidisciplinary studio dedicated to high concept and craftsmanship. So just a couple of examples of their previous work. This is an ongoing project. It's called Future Machine. So it's an ongoing multi-volume art initiative that explores the intersection of art and industry. Each volume is transformed and expanded through collaborations with tradespeople, industry leaders, technology pioneers, nonprofits, and other creatives, demonstrating the potential for innovation that is a blend of diverse voices. So the volume 1 was commissioned for Bellevue Arts Museum in 2017. It was a 7-month-long installation, which transformed in collaboration over the course of that time. So a dozen of local artist makers, tradespeople, and so on, contributed to the installation. It consisted of 5 distinct development phases in the unfolding of future machine, including idea, fuel, mechanics, illumination, and future. So the collaborators added their own unique contributions to each of the electric coffin's phases, a metaphor for the way unconventional collaborations work together to drive society forward. Another example of their work is called Odessa Portal. So alongside the debut of Odessa's A Moment Apart, it's an electronic music band. So this mysterious unmarked door portal just was created to mystically appear in Seattle's Capitol Hill. So the piece was constructed around a peephole, drawing people, viewers, into both the physical portal space and a 360-degree digital experience. So Electric Coffin made art vignettes for the digital campaign, and cyber scavenger hunt, which included space wolves, flocked space vehicles, and a floating hand. So they're very funny. This project here, called Treehouse, so this particular project attracted our attention. Originally, a one-week pop-up interactive sculpture exploring man-made and natural forms becoming one, a treehouse was commissioned for the Ideas Vancouver Design Fair a couple of years ago. Tracing the permutation from one state to the next, visitors were immersed in the over 60 feet long lit path. So this piece seems seamlessly transformed from a three-form house shape into an organic tree-like trunk crafted solely from cardboard. The installation was freestanding and constructed with no tools or glue. Custom laser-cut cardboard fasteners brought the mass to life. It grew up to 20 feet high in height, including a walkway, window, and interior bench. So for the purpose of the site-specific installation in King Plaza, Electric Coffin confirmed that they could reimagine that installation with materials, appropriate for an outdoors exhibition for 6 months or longer, designed around the budget and within the bounds to respect the specifics of our site. The artist will explore various outdoor-rated materials, such as ply or acrylics, hopefully, preferably something recyclable. The installation would be, scaled to the appropriate size to match our site. So while this original installation was constructed, attached without any tools, we'll be exploring using a more structurally sound method for installation here in Palo Alto, and probably lighting would be also incorporated. So that concludes my presentation. And with that, staff recommends the approval of upcoming temporary art installations on King Plaza and the allocation of funds in the amount of $40,000. So this funding would allow staff to get the first 2 highest ranked artists, Freeland Bach and Adam Marcus, on the contracts and move forward with the design development phase. And I welcome questions or comments.
No question, I just wanted to say that everything looks really exciting.
Thank you.
I like the diversity of the projects, too. It's really will bring different things to the plaza, which will really engage the people that come through here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts about lighting And I know that's been challenging with electrical. Do we definitely needs lighting, or what are your thoughts based on the experience we've had with lighting in the past?
Yeah, so actually we didn't run into any challenges with on-site lighting with previous installations. You know, King Plaza offers a number of perks, including dedicated electrical and data, hardwired data. The planter actually has embedded, light fixtures that work, so we can, reposition, reactivate those. So we're pretty good on that side, yeah.
Can you re-show the two proposed?
Yeah. Let me just quickly. The first ranked, top ranked, you mean?
The first two that you wanted
Yeah.
us to vote on?
Mm-hmm. The file is heavy, so my computer is
okay.
giving up. Yay. Okay. Here we go. So Freeland Buck is a collective who create very sophisticated canopy and pavilion-like structures coming up. Okay. So assembly pavilion that appears solid on one side and completely porous at the other sort of point of view. They're suspended ceiling installations for Smithsonian galleries. And then Adam Marcus from Oakland, a data-driven artist. Right, so 8,000 colored pencils. And then it's coming to the next slide. Okay, let's jump through. So this is the ice melting climate change representation of data. Glimmer, which was a 3-day long installation in San Francisco. And finally, his conceptual proposal for Palo Alto Arbor, which engages open portal, data portal, which is a really cool tool. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out. It's publicly available data which covers a lot of aspects on the environment, ecology. It's just a very interesting resource.
So thank you for sharing that. So
Sure.
I like the first one. I think I'm interested in seeing more of the concept. The second one, I have to say, it doesn't inspire me very much. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, the one, and as a whole, I think I see some interesting things. I think we can go farther with some artists. So that's kind of my concern. I just feel like I would like to see what else is out there. But that's just my kind of 2 cents. I don't know. I know you guys did a pre-qualified kind of pool, but I think that we could push ourselves a little more and do something even more, find some even more creative. So.
Thank you. So, to address Adam Marcus's proposal, just to remind you, this is a very sort of first sketch, his conceptual proposal. I mean, we'll definitely work with the artist further to refine and develop the proposal further. We're really intrigued with his ability to, creatively reimagine, represent that, data of 45,000 trees across the city into like a sculptural installation. Again, it's possible that to a certain degree, visually, the installation might, be refined and change slightly. So this is just sort of like the first concept. But his interest is definitely in this creative interpretation of regional ecological data.
The first group, Freeland Buck, you said one was in LA and one is in Brooklyn. Are they physically apart from each other?
I'm not sure how physically, they're apart. We communicated with both of them during our initial sort of dialogues, about the potential for the artwork. So, I mean, they've been successfully working for over 10 years, collaborating on projects. So I don't think it's going to be an issue.
No, I was just wondering if they're that physically that far apart, and where would the fabrication be done? That
Yeah,
sort of
it's
stuff.
TBD.
Okay.
So the 40,000 is for, is for how many years? Just 1 year, right? Or is it because then you gave 2009 through 19 through 2020.
21.
21. So that's the 40,000 would cover all of that.
So, we allocate up to $20,000 per each temporary installation to further develop the concept, fabricate, install, deinstall, and whatnot. So the allocation of funds will put us on the path of developing those concepts with the first two artists. So we'd initiate two separate, work relations with those artists.
Okay.
And in terms of the timeline, Blue Trees, we anticipate to keep this installation till April and May, perhaps. And we're looking into bringing a new project to Palo Alto spring, summer, But, again, we'll be working out each timeline with each artist separately.
And do other people feel, I mean, we've done Blue Trees, and I'm thinking too maybe that we need to do something other than trees. I understand the concept of kind of tracking and looking at the historical kind of parcel, but I mean, do people feel that that we're kind of containing ourselves? I mean, it's a different method, I know, of art, but I'm just curious people's thoughts.
Well, it's a completely different project, right? Like while Blue Trees aims to bring awareness about issues of, behind urban deforestation, really Arbor is a visual map of, map of Palo Alto in a way, with King Plaza being that center of, the compass. The narrative is very different for these two projects.
I think that maybe it's the reaction to the concept mock-up, Nia, that you're not so psyched about. I mean, I think I personally don't fancy data-oriented projects. I think that they're sort of very cerebral and they get lost and they need to be beautiful. In addition to just there was a great installation that one of the Golden Girls did that was at the San Jose airport, which was visually really, really interesting, but it was like weather data, but I don't know, it's sort of like for the 2% of the people that see it, they're interested, there's intellectually this is a fascinating thing, it applies data in this way, but I think it gets lost for most people who see it. And so I think that the execution, we're going to count on staff to do an execution that is compelling for the public and accessible.
Yeah.
Not trite, but accessible. And so that if you look at it, you're not like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. 145,000 trees that are represented by a circle of ugly metal things. I think that's what we want to avoid. He's done some interesting stuff. I mean, I think that there's, I didn't really care for Glimmer, but I like the other pieces that you guys had. I mean, I always wonder how these artists are able to do what they're able to do for so little money. Yeah. I'm way more excited about the Freeland Buck. Yeah. I think they are, it feels in terms of the first criteria for artistic excellence, they're at a different place than this guy. And I'd rather find another Freeland Buck or accelerate one of the other guys forward. are you guys set in terms of the recommendation? Can we recommend Freeland Buck and then pick one of the other folks to pull forward? Or?
So, with the allocation of the funds for 2 artists at this point, it will give us sort of the flexibility of exploring several venues. We're not.
Several venues or
we're-
several artists? Can we-
Several artists,
Okay.
so, if we're still working on the installation timeline at this point, that's why I didn't present it to you. So if, we'll continue conversations with all of them and just understand what's feasible and on what sort of like time scale. And if it makes more sense to proceed with a different artist at this point, we'll do that.
I have, I have a question about the AstroTurf
Yeah.
material, the timing, because you were saying that the artist was interested in upcycling AstroTurf, and we are going to have an oversupply of it this summer?
I think that the replacement project is currently scheduled for June, July 2019. So I don't have more detail on that, but
Yeah.
sometime this summer, I think, when it's going to happen.
I mean, because I'm just kind of thinking, like, timing-wise, would that be the only window to work with her?
I think we can, if we can source the AstroTurf, we can find a way to either store it away. I mean,
see.
she's got studio space. We can definitely work those details out.
Got it. Okay, so it's not a sashimi issue?
No. Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're voting on is the approval of the funds. So I guess I would say that I'm in favor of approving the funds. I like the 5 artists. I don't like the second artist you've chosen. And so I would just sort of go on record as saying, yep, for the first one, go ahead, let's do it, and let's allocate the money for everyone, and have you come back for the next one, maybe with some other treatments or other artists. Because it's like you're presenting these, but we're only funding the first 2, right? The first 20,000, because it's 20,000 per piece. So can you guys come back for next month, and if you're going to proceed with Freeland Buck? Or is it like it's the sequence? How are we to understand the recommendation here? Is it like it's these 4? It's 4 in this sequence, or it's definitely the first Freeland Buck is the first one, or how are you thinking about it?
So Freeland Buck and Adam Marcus are on the top sort of ranked artists. That's where the panel landed. So we're looking to proceed with funding those 2 projects at this point. So the funds at this point will be allocated for these 2 projects. However, the proposed concepts are very initial, so we can definitely take your recommendations back to the artist and just work further on his concept.
Nadia, what's the timing sensitivity on this? I mean, you did a beautiful job, nothing critical about the presentation, but it would have really been nice for Elise or Ian, who sat on the selection committee, to at least, give some context to how all of this went. I read this motion as we're voting on 1 and 2, which were the recommendations out of the committee. And so I'm hearing concern about the second one, which would lead me to believe either we table this vote to get more information, you guys come back with a different proposal, or we vote and, it may or may not go through.
I was hearing different things. I was hearing that we receive a review of the 5 artists. We're moving forward with explorations with all 5, but we're just committing 40,000 to work on some concepts with the first 2. So it's like a series of, we're approving the 5, and we're going forward with exploring with the first 2 concretely on the designs. Is that what we're voting on?
Do you want to address this?
I believe that's correct. I mean, I think, what's interesting is that the first artists actually don't even have a concept. They just have a map of the plaza. Yet, based on their examples of previous work, you got it, yeah. So, and you like the other pieces of Adam Marcus, so, we can certainly give feedback and say, as we're working with you, here's what we've heard, and see if that can work into it. But I agree with you that over the 2-year span, we're looking at working with all 5,
That's correct.
depending on how they will be sequenced,
Yeah.
and which materials they use, how long will it last? Will it last 6 months? Will it last a year? Those could be different elements that we choose as well. And that they'll fund two, and then over that time, we'll come back and there will likely be other opportunities to approve additional money. And you had the art in public places financial information?
Yeah.
So, you know,
So I just have one other question. Again, thank you for this wonderful, this is nothing again to do with you. So in the past, when we've done these, the artist pools, was it the same process? Because I don't remember this being, it sounds like a new, and it's one of those things I think personally, like I really feel like, I was a little disappointed, first of all, there's only one female, but that's another story. But I just really feel like it was not, I feel like we can do it would be nice to see like 10 people and kind of get a better sense of what else is out there. Because I think 5, yes, it's a lot, but they all start to look very similar in nature. So that was kind of my feelings. I don't know if I would love to say, if possible, I would second Jim's idea of approving the 40,000 and approving the first artist, and then finding out more about the other artists,
Wait,
if that's possible, or we can table it. What do you think?
my question is this though, I mean, do we want to halt their exploration with the second artist? Or do we just say, hey, you know what, go ahead and continue to work with them just with the feedback? And I really appreciate Jim's input because that concretely identified my concern, which is a lot of times you start with the storytelling of the data. And you know, you're visually looking at something and it bears absolutely no relations to that data. So it you know, I think the backstory is always interesting, but that piece kind of has to stick with the audience immediately. And I think that's Jim's feedback. And you know, this is just my personal proposal. I think, you know, the team has done so much research. They started with 300 artists, and they've narrowed it down to 5. And I do feel like they're being, you know, diligent and circumspective, and also continue to explore in a multi-layer fashion. Like maybe they're talking to these 2, but kind of like last year, that lady with the what would you call it, installation that didn't work out. So they may end up working with different people and pulling some that, you know, maybe number 2 doesn't work out, or, you know, they have to go back to the drawing board on sketches, and then they pull some other artists forward.
I guess I don't want to waste the money. I feel like personally, I mean, I didn't care for his other artwork. That's just my personal opinion. It didn't strike me, but I think the one thing too is, you know, to have somebody do concepts and like spend that money, I'd rather find somebody who, like the first one, like all the different parts that they did, I thought were very fascinating. So I'm like, I have confidence. Whereas the second one, I kind of felt like, okay, it wasn't and it's just my personal opinion. And I'm one of those people, I like to see, so I just don't feel like, I'm a little disappointed, I have to say,
So-
in the caliber.
So can I make a recommendation? So in the past, when you guys have brought temporary stuff, it's
Yeah.
either like we've seen, okay, this is the Bruce Beasley thing here, Blue Trees, we know what it's going to be. Will you be coming back to us with a vote to say, these are the pieces that we're doing, or are we kind of signing off here for whatever whatever we come up with?
So we'll definitely bring the more formalized, you know, more formed concepts
Okay.
back to you. Right now, we're proven artists.
Okay.
Right, and we'll continue working with, in particular, with Adam Marcus, you know, to bring your feedback to him.
Yeah.
And, you know, to address your point, absolutely, you know, when we first saw that initial conceptual proposal, you know, it was our first reaction with Elise. Yes, you know, there is a concern that data, you know, might be just lost, and it just does not relate it doesn't have any meaning to a viewer. So we'll definitely work on the artist, and on the staff level about that, whether, it's, interpretational information available on site, so it's relatable and accessible to a broader, to broad audience. So definitely.
So I think you've heard our feedback. I mean,
Yeah.
I think so. We'd like for you to come back with something. So it's so the committee, so the commission has another opportunity to weigh
Yeah.
in. In the same way that I think that we saw with the artists with the streamers coming down, like we sort of were excited about it. We found out it wasn't possible, and I'm assuming that we're
Right.
going to come back and see
And
concepts here.
if I can remind you about the selection process with the previous round, right, with Lee Benson, right, we had a concept, that it's going to be something. We presented a body of his previous work, and likewise, and with the round of this artist, we didn't know exactly what this installation would, look like, But I think we came to the commission a few times to, just present as the concept was, forming and developing. So we'll definitely report back on the process with these artists.
Do we have to follow the panel's recommendations on the ranking, or can we not follow it and recommend somebody else? And I
So-
think what's been said here tonight speaks
Yeah.
volumes about Freeland Buck versus Anna Marcus.
Right.
One has a concept, one doesn't, and the one that doesn't have a concept we really like.
So, I guess there are two sort of elements to this puzzle, right? There's ranking, but also there's artist availability in the timelines of the lead up time for each of the artists, how much time they need to refine their design concept, fabricate, install, how their availability. So if you recall with the previous round of artists, it was that continuous sort of puzzle that we had to solve, and we landed, and that previous timeline shifted from what we first proposed and then how it actually was realized. So I assume that it most likely will be the case with this grouping. So
No, I think that the commission's prepared to approve Freeland Buck. So I think the motion is to approve them, and at the next meeting, we revisit the Adam Marcus situation. Maybe there'll be a bit more information. Maybe you can go back to him and the concept could look a little different, or we can talk to, reshifting this grouping.
Or that we allocate the funds. So if the thing is, let's allocate the funds, but we're not approving the artists.
exactly. So if we decide we should explore, just move forward with the design development, phase with different artists at this point, we'll do that.
I just want to remind the commission, I think one of the parking lot projects, we were very enamored with, one of the group artists, and they were by far the highest ranking, artists, and we really wanted to work with them. But by the time it came time to work on our project, they just became at a different level where, their schedule didn't complete, and we just couldn't even sign a contract with them. So we ended up having to find another artist. So, and I just kind of think that in this situation where we're so in love with the first artist, they didn't even prepare a concept for us, and I would be concerned that we end up in that situation. So I do think that our team here trying to parallel track a lot of projects, you kind of have to give them that flexibility in case the first one that we're so in love with falls through. And, continue to have this dialogue. I mean, I think the team has heard us very clearly that this is not giving the commission the wow factor. But, take that feedback and said, we gotta do something else maybe. But I personally don't wanna tie your hands.
No, of course not, and I think everybody's very excited about programming on King Plaza. This motion, though, is to accept the recommendations of a convened panel who have
Yes.
ranked these artists.
That's
So
correct.
I do not think right now, I think if you're approving it, you are approving it to say that we approve the recommendations of the panel, of which there is no one here to tell us how they got to sort of, you know, their ranking or what the rationale was, which is why, if it's here to approve 40,000 for King Plaza, then put that motion and let's vote on it. But the motion right now is to approve 40,000 for these two recommended artists out of a panel that was convened to evaluate these artists. And I'm hearing material concern about the second recommended artist. I don't think anybody wants to hold up or not have art on King Plaza. It's just there are concerns about this second artist, and I don't know that it's a great precedent to approve the money and go work it out. You know, go find a good artist and feed the information back. I don't think that that's a good process.
So can we vote to approve the funding and ask you to come back with concepts for approval in a subsequent discussion where Elise can come, I don't know, maybe share?
Yes.
Okay.
And there, I just want to add thank you for your comments, because I totally understand where you're coming from too. And I just had one quick question I have with this 40,000. So I think one of the things that's confusing me
Yeah.
and frustrating me a little bit is the idea is, I understand you need to pay artists to do preliminary sketches and designs. But one of the things I don't want is to spend money on something and then all of a sudden it's like it's not gonna work out. So I'm wondering too, I don't know if there's a way that we could bump up even this 40,000 to 50,000 and divide that 50, just hear me out for a second, and divide that extra 10,000 and say, you know, here, we're gonna give this to you as like if we wanted to choose like 3 different artists and say, can you give us some ideas? And then come back to us like more specific kind of design and fabrication kind of materials. And then we can say, oh, yeah, that's gonna be perfect, and kind of like we know that they're on board kind of thing. And then say, okay, well then you're gonna get this $20,000 to do everything else kind of thing, or something like that. Because or else you're spending the money basically on these people, and if it doesn't kind of work out, you're basically giving them, you're basically spending your money on something that may or may not.
Just because we've been on this for a long time,
Yeah.
I'm gonna move
But
that
I
we.
wanna move the 40,000.
I want to vote to approve the allocation
With the feedback, yeah.
and with the feedback that we
Okay.
provided. So I move that we approve the funding and that you consider the feedback and we revisit the selections.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. That's the most spirited debate we've had in a while. That's a good one. Okay. All right, the Baylands Artists in Residence.
Did you have pictures for this?
No.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so you received the action plan draft for review. We had, and you received the attachment, yes, so you've reviewed this. So essentially, what we're asking for tonight is just a review of the comprehensive plan and the public art overlay, and for you to provide any feedback or ask any questions or give us any comments. I did want to stress that this is a guide for if and when there is redevelopment or projects that take place there, using the percent for art funds. It's not necessarily a prescription for this is what's going to happen starting next year, right? This provides you a sense of a menu of options. All would go through the usual call and vetting process that you are all familiar with, which we had a little bit of an example of that, right before this, so that's perfect. So I really don't know where you want to start. If you guys had any questions about the overlay, about the report, or you had anything specific that you wanted me to convey, or record or discuss. So I will leave that up to you.
I thought they did an amazing job. I mean, I think that, I was on the selection panel for these guys, and I think there was a lot of concern for people that were advocates for nature and for the Baylands, that this was gonna be, drop some inorganic thing in the middle of the Baylands, and it's gonna disrupt wildlife, and this was a very, I think, we learned a lot about what environmental art can be. And to me, this was a model project of engaging the community and getting art that works well with the space in an organic way and did some kind of healing for the environment. So I thought it was
Yeah.
beautifully done and an exemplar project.
Yeah.
Is Palo Alto one of the communities around the bay that has something like this, or are there other communities that are doing anything like this? I know San Jose does a little bit with Alviso, but I can't think of any. I mean, Fremont has their salt marshes, right? But,
Right, and I was thinking of Emeryville maybe, but I don't know if they have anything
oh, they
specific.
do, they do. They have a nice little park out there. I just
Okay.
performed a wedding ceremony. A nice park right out there, but yeah, okay.
Okay, so they.
But nothing really like the Baylands here, where you have all the different environmental things and the different species of animals that are in through there and that whole thing. Okay.
I would bring these guys back to do something similar again. I think that they were terrific.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great, well-written document when I read it. Well, that was easy.
Any other feedback? No. All right, so Barbara Gregutis next time.
Yep.
And it's been fun being the chair. I look forward to passing the baton.
Thank you, Jen.
I have something to say. I want to thank Jim for his leadership through these last 3 years. I know we've gone through a lot with the Public Art Master Plan and the percent for private development and all the other little things that have come up, and I think Jim and his leadership has really led this commission through that, and we're at a really good place right now. So thank you, Jim, very much.
Thank you, guys. It's been fun.
And for timely meetings.
I know. Yep.
All right, thank you guys very much. That was a great presentation, Nadia. It's really fascinating. It was
Thank
like
you.
a art history lecture of contemporary artists. It was terrific.
Did you want to add the?
Yes, we have one quick announcement.
Okay.
You're all invited to join us and Coverly Artists at the reception that they're hosting at the Art Center on January 24th, which will start at 5:30. So we'll be celebrating their achievements and the latest donations to the city collection. The artists will be making really fun 2-minute long presentations about their scope of work. We'll be having refreshments and snacks.
That's great.
So, January 24th,
Yeah,
please.
What time?
It will start at 5:30
At the Art Center.
at the Art Center meeting room. And the artworks are installed in that space, so you'll have a chance to view the works.
Very cool.
Can you email us that information?
Will do tomorrow.
Sorry.
Thanks for organizing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.